You can't just set up a business wherever you please. This is a residential neighborhood, young man." Her voice cut through the hot Saturday morning air like a blade. Jake blinked up at her, plastic cup trembling in his hand. He was 10 years old, barely tall enough to see over the fold-out table, and had spent all morning perfecting his sign. Jake's Fresh Lemonade. $1 for my sister's birthday. But that didn't matter to the woman towering above him. A clipboard clutched tight to her chest. Short blonde bob tucked behind both ears like a helmet. Lips pressed into a thin, unsmiling line. This was HOPE, Hope Lewis, president of the Eastbrook Hills HOA, and self-declared guardian of neighborhood order. Jake had only met her once before, when she slipped a note in their mailbox about their trash cans being visible from the street. But now she was standing at the edge of their driveway, arms crossed, looking at him like he was a criminal. "You need a vendor's permit to sell anything in this subdivision," she snapped. "And this," she pointed to the makeshift stand made of milk crates and a plank of painted wood. "This violates no less than 4 community codes: obstruction of pedestrian pathways, unlicensed signage, unregistered commercial activity, and attracting loiterers." Jake opened his mouth to explain, but his mom came running out of the house before he could say a word. "Is there a problem?" she asked, pulling her robe tighter over her tank top. "Absolutely," Hope said without hesitation. "Your son is operating an illegal stand on HOA-governed property. I've already called community compliance." "You what?" "You'll receive an official citation on Monday. If this isn't dismantled in the next 10 minutes, there'll be fines. Heavy ones." Jake's mom stared at her, stunned. "He's just trying to raise a little money for his sister's birthday. He's 10. 10 or not, rules are rules," Hope barked. "And unless you want a formal hearing with the HOA disciplinary committee, I suggest you shut this nonsense down immediately." Jake's lip quivered, and he looked down at his little cash jar. He'd made $11 so far. Mrs. Castillo from across the street had bought 2 cups and gave him $5 as a tip. "For effort," she'd said. He'd smiled so hard his cheeks hurt. Now he wanted to cry. And just when it couldn't feel worse, a white sedan pulled up. A man in a short-sleeve button-down shirt stepped out, flashing a badge clipped to his belt. "Neighborhood code enforcement," he said flatly. "Someone reported an unauthorized sale operation." Hope turned to Jake's mom with the cold satisfaction of someone who had already written the ending to this chapter. Jake just watched the man bend down and take pictures of the stand. "You'll be getting a citation in the mail. Repeat violations may result in HOA board action." The enforcement officer walked back to his car. Jake's mom knelt beside him. "Let's go inside, sweetheart." "I didn't do anything wrong," Jake whispered. "I know," she said, her voice tight. "I know." The table was folded. The pitcher poured out in the sink. Jake's hand-drawn sign was placed gently in the trash. Hope stood at the end of the driveway the entire time, arms folded like she was guarding a victory. "Where are you watching from? Have you or your kids ever run into an HOA nightmare like this? Drop your story in the comments. We're not alone in this. If you believe kids deserve to dream, hit like and subscribe, because this story is just getting started." Monday morning, Sasha found the envelope. Crisp white, no return address, but she knew who it was from. Eastbrook Hills. HOA violation notice stamped across the top in block letters. 3 pages. Violation 1, unauthorized commercial activity. Violation 2, disruption of property appearance standards. Violation 3, use of temporary, non-permitted structures. Total fine, $250. Deadline to correct, 7 days. She stood at the kitchen window, holding the letter like it might bite. Outside, Jake sat on the front step, arms around his knees, quietly poking at a crack in the concrete with a stick. He hadn't said a word about the lemonade stand since the day Hope shut him down. That silence scared her more than any fine. By noon, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications from the local Facebook group Eastbrook Hills Neighbors lit up her screen. Was that the Lewis kids' lemonade stand? Seriously? She called code enforcement on a child? My daughter was so excited to help him. She cried for an hour. I'm tired of HOA-Karens treating the whole neighborhood like a prison yard. There were still defenders, of course. Rules are rules, one man commented. If we let one kid do it, they'll all start. But those voices were quiet now, drowned out by neighbors finally speaking up. Sasha didn't reply to any of them. She just read and reread and felt something under her ribs shift from shame to anger. The next morning, just as she was heading to her car, a woman approached her from the sidewalk. Blazer, jeans, sneakers, folder tucked under her arm. "You're Jake's mom?" the woman asked gently. Sasha hesitated. "Yes, can I help you?" "I'm Sarah Cole. I live over on Maple, near the community pool. Used to work in county legal affairs." She extended a hand. "Mind if I talk to you for a few minutes?" They sat on the porch, Jake still inside eating cereal with the TV low. Sarah opened her folder. "You're not the first person Hope's targeted," she said simply, "but you might be the first one people are ready to fight for." Sasha frowned. "I thought she just... I don't know. I didn't expect her to come after a lemonade stand." "She always starts small," Sarah said, "because people don't want to make noise about the little things. But I've lived here 8 years. I've seen her issue bogus violations to single parents, retirees, families who rent. She knows most people won't fight it. They'll just pay." She handed Sasha a few printed pages, copies of older violation letters, some nearly identical to the one Sasha had received. "There's a pattern," Sarah continued. "She overreaches, then uses intimidation to keep people quiet. But after what she did to Jake, people are finally talking. And I think this time, she pushed too far." Sasha looked down at the pages, then back at Sarah. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'd like to help, and I think you're not alone." Sarah stood, offered a card, and walked back toward the sidewalk. Sasha sat on the steps long after she left, wind stirring the corners of the violation letter in her lap. Inside, Jake pressed his forehead to the window and watched his mom staring into the street. Not defeated, but calculating. It started with lemonade again. On Friday afternoon, Sasha walked outside with a pitcher and 2 folding chairs. Jake followed behind her, dragging a small cooler on wheels. The wooden sign had been repainted, neater this time. Jake's Lemonade, $1. All proceeds for Emily's birthday. They set up in the exact same spot. No hiding, no apologies. Jake looked up at his mom. "Won't we get in trouble again?" Sasha knelt beside him. "Maybe," she said, "but sometimes the right thing means standing your ground." He nodded once, pulled out a stack of cups, and straightened his shoulders. The first customer was Mrs. Castillo again. She didn't even ask for lemonade, just slipped a 20 into the jar, winked, and said, "About time someone stood up to that woman." 10 minutes later, a white SUV slowed in front of the house. Hope Lewis, her eyes locked onto the stand, her jaw clenched. She didn't get out of the car. She just picked up her phone. Jake saw her. "Is she calling someone?" "Probably," Sasha replied. "Let her." That evening, Sarah arrived with a thick binder and a laptop. "I've been working on something," she said, spreading documents across Sasha's dining table. 33 residents have reported either excessive fines or suspicious violations from Hope in the last 2 years. I've collected statements, emails, and even footage in some cases. But we need more. Sasha leaned in. "What do you mean?" "We need to make this public. Bring everyone together. If the board won't stop her, maybe the neighborhood will." They started that night, building a simple website, collecting stories through a Google form, compiling scanned letters from residents. Word spread fast. By Sunday, the lemonade stand had become a symbol. Jake didn't fully understand the politics swirling around him, but he understood kindness. People who used to ignore him were stopping by with coins and smiles. Someone donated a small umbrella for shade. The teenager from 2 streets over offered to design a better logo. Even Mr. Kramer, who usually grunted instead of speaking, dropped off a stack of ice packs. That same afternoon, Hope struck back. A second violation notice appeared. This one came in a bright orange envelope, taped directly to the front door. "Repeated defiance of HOA mandates," it read. If unaddressed, subject to formal disciplinary hearing and property-level fines. Jake watched as Sasha peeled the paper off the door. She didn't tear it. She folded it, placed it on the counter, and turned to him. "You still want to run the stand tomorrow?" He nodded. "I haven't reached my goal yet." "What's the goal?" "Enough to buy Emily the art set she wants, and a little extra so I can surprise her with it at her party." Sasha blinked fast. "Then let's keep going." But Hope wasn't done. Monday morning, two HOA board members, one Sasha didn't even recognize, knocked on the door. They stood stiffly, clipboards in hand. "We're here to conduct an unscheduled property inspection," one said. Sarah arrived 5 minutes later, already recording on her phone. "You're not allowed to do this without written notice," she said, stepping between them and the door. "This is a discretionary inspection," the man replied. Sarah held up a copy of the HOA bylaws. "Then show us the clause." The men hesitated. One muttered something about pending violations, but neither could produce a document. They left, clearly rattled. That night, someone posted a video on Facebook. Jake handing lemonade to an elderly woman who wiped tears from her eyes. The caption read, "When did kindness become a violation?" Within hours, it had over 1,000 shares. And Hope? Hope called an emergency HOA meeting. The community center hadn't been this full in years. Chairs scraped, murmurs filled the air. Residents packed every row, with others standing along the walls, arms folded, eyes wary. Word had spread about the lemonade stand, about the fines, about the website. Even the local newspaper sent a reporter, her press badge clipped to a denim jacket. Jake sat beside Sasha in the front row, swinging his feet just above the floor. Sarah stood near the podium, binder clutched tight to her chest. Then at exactly 6 p.m., Hope Lewis entered. She wore a navy pantsuit and that same clipboard, her smile as tight and brittle as ever. She walked straight to the front, ignoring the murmurs, and stood behind the mic. "This emergency meeting of the Eastbrook Hills Homeowners Association is now in session," she said. "We are here to address ongoing violations and disruptive behavior by residents who believe they are exempt from our standards." There were no opening pleasantries, no welcoming tone, just the crack of control. "Before we begin," Hope continued, "let me remind everyone that personal attacks will not be tolerated. This is about maintaining order and preserving the quality of life we all invested in." Sasha raised her hand. "Then let's talk about quality of life, shall we?" Hope stiffened. "Mrs. Lewis, you are not recognized to speak yet." But Sarah was already stepping forward, placing the binder on the table. "This contains 47 documented instances of questionable citations and unapproved HOA actions initiated by you personally," she said, "including violations that fall outside the authority granted to this board under Section 2.3 of the HOA Charter." Hope's smile flickered. "That information is not verified." "I was a county legal officer for 12 years, Sarah replied, cool and calm. "It's verified, and backed by resident testimony, time-stamped notices, and recorded interactions, including videos." Gas spread through the crowd. A projector flicked on. Slide 1, a screenshot of the HOA Charter, highlighted text. Slide 2, a video of Hope ordering code enforcement to make an example of Jake's stand. Slide 3, a quote from a neighbor testifying that Hope threatened to raise their monthly dues after they questioned offense regulation. The room shifted. Someone in the back muttered, "That happened to me." Another nodded. "She fined us for the wrong kind of mailbox." A woman whispered, "She made my daughter cry." Over chalk art. Hope's voice wavered. "This is character assassination." "It's accountability," Sarah said. Sasha stepped forward. "You humiliated my son. You sent men to our house to intimidate us. Over lemonade. And when the community stood with him, you tried to bury us in paperwork, but what you didn't count on was people paying attention." Then a new voice rang out. Mr. Watkins, a retired judge, stood slowly from the third row. "I move to call a vote of no confidence in Hope Lewis as HOA president," he said clearly. Hope's mouth dropped open. "You can't do that." "Oh, but we can," Sarah said, turning to the crowd. "According to Article 5, Section 4 of the bylaws, any board member may be removed by a two-thirds majority of voting residents." People began raising hands, one by one. Then in waves, even two current board members raised theirs. The reporter took notes furiously. The camera phones rolled, and Hope just stood there, frozen, clipboard sagging slightly in her grip. By the end of the count, it wasn't even close. Hope was out. She stormed from the room, no words, no dignity, just the shuffle of hurried heels and a slammed door behind her. The silence that followed felt electric. Then Jake whispered, "Does that mean I can sell lemonade again?" The room erupted in applause. 2 weeks later, the Jake's lemonade stand had a line. Not a crowd, a line. People brought lawn chairs, kids held handmade signs, and neighbors stopped by not just for the lemonade, but to be part of something. A quiet kind of revolution had happened in Eastbrook Hills, and it tasted like freshly squeezed citrus with just the right amount of sugar. Jake wore a yellow baseball cap and had started giving out stickers with each cup. One read, "Certified HOA friendly," with a winking lemon. Another said, "I survived Karen level enforcement." Hope Lewis's name wasn't spoken much anymore, not because people forgot, but because nobody wanted to give her the satisfaction. She had packed up and moved within days of the vote. The house went up for sale through a different agency. According to Sarah, the state real estate board had opened an ethics review into her business practices. Rumor had it there were other complaints from the neighborhoods she'd served before. Amanda Brooks, a longtime resident and former elementary teacher, was elected interim HOA president. Her first order of business? A public review of every standing regulation with an emphasis on fairness and transparency. Her second? She bought a lemonade from Jake, paid $5, didn't ask for change. During a sunny Saturday picnic organized by the new HOA board, Sasha stood near the grill, flipping burgers and laughing with Sarah, Amanda, and a few other parents. "That art kit," Sasha said, glancing toward the stand where Jake chatted with two girls from school. "He gave it to his sister a week early. Said he couldn't wait. She cried." Sarah smiled. "You know, I think that stand did more for this community than any HOA policy ever could." "You think he understands everything that happened?" Amanda asked. "Not all of it," Sasha said. "But he knows what fairness feels like. And he knows what standing up looks like now." Later that evening, as the last of the folding tables were being put away, Jake stood alone beside his stand, counting bills carefully into a small tin box. When he looked up, Sasha was there watching. "Did I do okay?" he asked. She smiled. "You did better than okay, buddy." He paused, then said, "I was scared. That day Hope yelled at me. I wanted to cry." "You didn't have to be brave," Sasha said, kneeling beside him. "But you were. And a lot of people saw that. You helped more than you know." He blinked and then offered her the last cup of lemonade. "For you," he said. "Free." She took it and raised the cup slightly toward the horizon where the sun was dipping low behind the rooftops. "To new beginnings," she said. And somewhere, not too far away, another mom would see the story in the local news. How a lemonade stand took down an HOA tyrant and feel just a little less alone. Jake's sign stayed up all summer, and no one dared touch it again.